show the world the real you. Happy full moon in Aquarius. This is an interesting celestial signature we've got going on with this full moon because it's in conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius. Conjunction being a complementary signature right there at that first 8 degrees of the sign. And the moon, that's a personal planet. You treat that on a very personal basis, while Pluto is the least personal. It's the furthest out there, the generational planet, you know. Millennials have Pluto and Scorpio. And so I'm thinking this is an opportunity for us to express that authentic self, that Aquarian energy, how we want to be seen. Kind of turn the tables on that rather than being stifled by perceptions and impressions by us. This is an opportunity for us to put out how we want to be seen. And that can take a lot of forms. Like when I started this YouTube channel, one of the ideas in mind when I set out was an exercise in essentialism. Like, I know getting on camera with my face, I could generate more traffic that way just because it's more personable, people like faces and whatnot. But the issue is regardless of how open and non-judgmental somebody is, as soon as they see a face, they start drawing conclusions. That's just what our brains do. It's like, are you friend or foe? Are you part of the group? Are you not? It just goes through all these automatic processes to try and identify like what category that person would go into. And it's an unconscious and very fast process. I feel like doing the faceless YouTube thing, that gives me the opportunity to tell my story and it really be heard without that kind of demographic veil put over it. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting way to do things. So maybe you are exploring your expression of self, whether it's through a creative process, through your sense of fashion, how you're dressing, tattoos, anything like that. So tell me more about this full moon. And kind of a eclectic deck selection. So I feel like the Goddess Isis Oracle, that'll be more on the macro or even unconscious level as to what this full moon might be illuminating. So what about this? These cards are almost too big for my hands. What about this full moon? A little quiet to start. There we go. Ancient Power Mysteries. Hear the rattle of Isis playing. And that looks like a sistrum. So Bastet might be significant. And what just came to mind was how serious a punishment it was to hurt cats in ancient Egypt. Whether that was intentional or unintentional. But serious punishments for that. So Ancient Power Mysteries, hear the rattle of Isis playing. And that instrument associated to a lot of festivals too. Very rambunctious festivals. So traditions of the past are somehow significant. Maybe you want to explore your ancestry in some way. Reconnect with your roots. So how's this going to show up on a micro level? And reconnecting with your roots. So I did actually get the 4th house on the dice roll, and Venus again, and Libra. But your roots, that could be your values as well, not just ancestry. And there goes the clock right when I said values. So maybe reconnecting with really the principles at heart, not what you were taught necessarily. It's just reminding me of making me think of when people go their own way, when they do their own thing, go against the grain, maybe a non-traditional life path. And, I mean, non-traditional according to who? The Puritans? There's so much of that woven into our collective psyche. Thinking that that's like the yardstick by which the world is measured by. Being too much again. Rejection, overexpression, and shame. But it was in reverse. So maybe this is something you're working through. I know that was a big part of my trauma recovery, was that tug of war that I was put between of being too much and not enough simultaneously, and living in that liminal space. I mean, resulted for me in complex PTSD, but reconnecting with the identity, anchoring back to self, that really helped me re-adopt kind of the audaciousness of my teenage years, that like, if I'm too much, go find less. Why do you expect me to change for you? It is like the audacity. And people can get real huffy about that, which I don't understand. Like, do you really think you're entitled to expect somebody to change for you? Like, who made you king of everything? So what about this being too much? And Venus in Libra. Venus is Libra's ruler. So another, I think this is 3rd reading in a row where the sign was emphasized in some way. 5 of Pentacles, Lord of material trouble, but it's in reverse, so that's a good thing. And Taurus is ruled by Venus as well. Interesting. But a relief of material trouble, hopefully. I think a lot of us need that. And regaining access to the authentic self, I think that can open up a lot of potential paths to prosperity and such. It's unfortunately not guaranteed. I think a bit tougher of a path in ways to get prosperity through the creative paths rather than like the 9-to-5 pipeline. And part of me wonders if that's some type of discouragement to not go that way, making things so complicated. Because if we had things like universal health care, UBI, whatnot, people would have more freedom, more flexibility to pursue their authentic expressions. And authentic expressions are what yield change, what yield major change. Especially if you've been suppressed by this system, by maybe an overbearing family system for a really long time, then you speaking up, telling your story, finding your expression, that can help other people do away with the accepting this idea that they're too much. Like, too much according to whom? 8 billion people on the planet, and you expect me to capitulate to you? To yield to you? Like, no. I've always found the, I don't know, criticisms of my rebellious nature kind of strange. Because rebelling against who? Like, what authority are you to rebel against? Even if it's a family system here in the States after 18, like, where's what authority over me? Two of Cups. Lord of Love. Like a dolphin. And another Venus card. Maybe your Venus placement is important in some way. Oh, hi, Pumpkin. Good morning. So Venus in Cancer. And that's the 4th house, too. And there's a little phrase that floats around the interwebs every so often. Like, it's important that you be yourself so that the people looking for you can find you. Because whatever special thing it is that you bring to the world, the first step, the foundation towards that is your authentic expression, being able to be yourself. And unfortunately, not everybody is in an environment that allows them to be that. But this full moon, this could be illuminating what needs to change. So what about this 2 of Cups? That surprised my cat. 6 of Pentacles in reverse. Lord of Material Success. Yeah, what do you think? So you're not getting what you're putting in. And that can be a real drain. Because this whole idea of being too much, that's like the additional burden of having to mask around somebody that, like, no matter what you do, it's never good enough. There's always some reason that the carrot is continuously held out and you don't actually get it. Some reason that they're consistently reneging on their end of the deal, their end of the bargain. Because maybe, why are you chewing on my ring? She doesn't do that very often. Just chewing on my eyeball ring. Need to see something? Need to see where you're being promised things and they're not being given? So what was in the background on this? It's like a party. But the person in the front is a skeleton, and the people in the background, they're people. They still have their meat suits on. Been worked to the bone. This is like the person in the office, usually a woman, regardless of position, gets dumped with the, like, remembering birthdays and planning potlucks and, like, all the administrative, like, admin assistant stuff. But their role might be completely different. Like, they might be in a technical role or something, and they're just expecting the woman to do the womanly things. Discrimination. Right as that candle starts flickering. Maybe that's something you're worried about with showing your authentic self. How do I put this? If and when you can find a way, a place, a space for your expression of self. It might highlight the discrimination you are already experiencing. Because if you are bending over backwards to fit into a system that requires you to contort like that, there's something wrong. You shouldn't have to work yourself to the bone just to not get equal back. Six of Pentacles in reverse. So what? Right as that clock chimed, I was thinking about just millennials in general, the generational issues of prosperity being withheld from us, and how a lot of us, and I think that's bled over into Gen Z as well, have started to go the how do I make money on the internet route. There's lots of different ways. Because we're not getting what we were promised. Why would we keep participating? Doesn't make sense. So what's the deal with this unequal give and take? What about unequal give and take? Nope. That was too many. These don't flip as easily. They will plop though. My bad. Divine Sisterhood. Community of the spiritual sisters and brothers of the light. So generally, generational issue. It's happening to everybody. But maybe there's a need for some unity to resolve it, to address it. Because they're pressing hands together. Like, it's not exactly like a high five. Could be. But uniting forces. Just for a better tomorrow. Community help. Community assistance. Community networking. So how's this going to show up on the micro? Divine Sisterhood. Just taking the bottom one. Trying not to lose it. Tension, suppressed rage, pressure. But it's in reverse. Letting it out. And this is Divine Sisterhood. Been seeing a lot of posts recently reminding people that when women suppress our anger and repress our emotions and things like that, it turns into autoimmune diseases, chronic pain, so forth. The body does express what's going on. So actually letting yourself pop off, being mindful of the context in which that occurs, but I think that's part of accepting that you're going to be too much for some people regardless of what you do. If you were sitting silent in the corner in a potato sack, you'd still be doing too much. And wasn't it Marilyn Monroe? She did the potato sack dress thing as like a clapback to somebody. And she's one of the many women that have been dumbed down through history to try and oversimplify us. Cleopatra is also coming to mind, which she spoke 9 languages. Goodness gracious. And maybe you're fed up with being oversimplified. Like, there's been many jobs that I've had where I've dumbed myself down to not have to deal with the egos. Because then work becomes this minefield if I actually show my true intelligence. Because then it becomes this stupid competition and not where could I be best utilized on the team. And it's like a lose-lose situation because I repress myself, then I get the health issues, the built-up stress. Still get held back in my career, but I show my true intelligence, and I still get held back in my career because of egos. There's not enough checks and balances to protect people from really the types of folks who get into leadership. Is there seems to be a pretty common theme of it's like a place for mediocrity to go, because then you have all the technical people doing all the work, and then you've got this bloat in middle management that they're going to meetings to tell middle management or to tell the other people what to do. Like, it just seems like such a bad system, because why don't you just send the person doing the work to the meeting? That telephone game, it's not helpful. But these office politics are so detrimental to actual productivity. But it keeps the wrong people in charge. And it's like anything and everything to maintain the foothold. Got the Empress, daughter of the mighty ones. I think this is, in many ways, letting all that anger out. Could be an opportunity for wrathful compassion about how much has been withheld from women. Like, we know when it's time to take, we know where we are. But the equal spoils, they don't come our way, and they've got really serious consequences to us. And I think on our part, we have to stop asking the problem to help. Because they've shown us that they won't. Which, that's their choice. What to do next, though, that might be that divine sisterhood, spiritual sisters and brothers of the light, because there are some men that are on our side, legitimately. It can be difficult to discern who actually is, because there's some really sneaky chameleons that will try to get into women's spaces by using the correct jargon, using like therapy speak and things like that. Just being cautious about who gets access to the proverbial throne room. Eight of Wands. That can be an evil eye card. A lot of energy being directed at someone. Maybe the Empress. And King of Pentacles. Prince of the Chariot of Earth. And Pentacles can be years in terms of a time span. So maybe this has been going on for a while. Could be a long-standing conflict. Something being revealed with the full moon in regards to that. It's like I just saw, was it over 80,000 flock cameras were used to track down a woman who had an abortion from Texas? Like, she crossed state lines or something, and which means Flock lied about like federal access across state lines and things like that. But women come forward every day with receipts about their partners or family members, and they get blown off. Like, we're telling you where the crime is happening, and we barely get a heartbeat of a response. It's mostly just tell us to leave. But we can utilize 80,000 cameras to track down one woman? You gotta be kidding me. So this could also be evil eye, or judgment even, coming from the Empress of, like, how can you take issue with me getting mad about being oppressed? Like, that's really what you're mad about? You're mad about me having a reaction to oppression? That's really strange. It's a strange thing to be mad about. Because it's like you're telling on yourself that you believe women deserve to be oppressed. Like, what would be the problem with us reacting to that? And I think millennial women, Gen Z in particular, some Gen X for sure, but very vocal about, okay, we see the patterns, we see that nothing's changing, we keep hearing these words that we care about women, we care about women's issues. Like, okay, so do something. Like, do the thing that you're supposed to be doing. So what's this conflict? It's being revealed about some sort of tension, some sort of conflict. Let's see. It's a tale as old as time, women being oppressed and suppressed, especially our work too. How many big names in major fields, science, technology, psychology, they get revealed that actually that was the wife's work and the husband just put their name on it, or the teacher just put their name on it. Rising Sun, the divine solar child reborn, and Wings of Isis, uniting with the angelic self. So that's the birth of Horus that she's holding, the infant. I phrase that weird. But it's referencing the birth of Horus, the divine solar child reborn. And Horus is the rightful ruler. It's making me think of the challenges between Set and Horus, that by the end of it, Osiris was the final vote. That, like, okay, if you don't restore the rightful ruler, the crown to the rightful ruler, I'm going to open a portal to the underworld and unleash hell on Earth. Maybe that's what this full moon is about, because it's illuminating in Pluto in Hades, and this kind of looks like a clock. Maybe time's up. Like, there has been plenty of time to address something, and now the portal, the proverbial portal, is being illuminated. That you had the chance to control the information, the way it came out, but you rested on your laurels. So no more waiting. You don't get to hold people's lives up because you don't feel like dealing with it, actually facing accountability. And uniting with the angelic self, you can think of that like your higher self, your authentic self. I think that's the, like the crone era. You're not going to put up with it anymore. We are done playing around. Because the backdrop to all this is Saturn retrograde in Aries. So what about the solar child and wings of Isis? You knew, you ignored it. Yeah, somebody had plenty of time. Intuition, ignorance, and self-betrayal. This would be like somebody knowing about a major issue, like something that needs to be addressed. I don't know, the AI data centers are a good idea, or not a good idea, but a good example. Or the flock cameras, that they lied, they didn't disclose that you can actually access these across state lines. And then the public found out before anybody came forward and was like, oh, we've identified that we were lied to. You should have told us that we deserve to know that, not figure that out. And that it's really disrespectful to know that something major is going on and to just allow it to go on in the background. Because what, you're being a coward about it? People don't want to face accountability. They're never going to want to face accountability. If you're dealing with that personality type that resists it at all costs, there's always going to be another excuse. So what was ignored? I flipped pretty fast. Knight of Swords, Lords of the Winds and Breezes. It was in reverse. So the sure-footed hero, because in the upright they're more reckless. But the Knight of Swords, that's also a communicator. Like they're speaking a message, conveying a message in some way. They ignored a messenger. This would be like ignoring a whistleblower. That somebody disclosed something and they blew it off because they didn't want to deal with the fallout. They didn't want to deal with, I don't know, the social consequences, things like that. Like, cool, you made it a lot worse on yourself. Because these things have a way of coming out regardless. And I think there's, I don't know, procedures and such to follow. Because what do you do if you need to whistleblow on something and you get ignored? I don't know. It's a good question. Uh-oh. Wheel of Fortune in reverse. The Lord of the Forces of Life. And this is also my Nemesis card. And in reverse, that's not great fortune. Because the fortune that's received is what effort was put into. And if effort was put into suppression, repression, oppression, anything, then their choices are going to get suppressed. Because they don't get to choose anymore. They had the opportunity to come forward about whatever was wrong, whatever they knew about, the red flags, the warnings that they were given, and they didn't. It'd be like if there was something, I don't know, like there's a bunch of food recalls right now. It'd be like not being told about a known issue. That's not going to yield good fortune. And just the way that Nemesis works, that's going to be a pretty significant response, because how many people were hurt by this information being repressed? It almost feels infantilizing too. Like that's maybe an excuse of, well, we didn't want to rock the boat, anything like that. Like, you're, in terms of, millennials, you're talking about people in their 40s or near their 40s. You can't keep making these excuses that we can't handle things. And we can't keep expecting people who consistently show a pattern of infantilizing and disrespect, hoarding power, things like that, to suddenly grow a conscience. It would just be another excuse to maintain power. So maybe some things are getting revealed. Because Pluto, Hades, can relate that to the Death card. That's like transformation that needs to occur. Speaking of, the clock chimed right as those flipped over. The Blasted Tower, Lord of the Hosts of the Mighty, and Princess of Cups, Princess of the Palace of Floods. So yeah, it's Tower time, and that came out in the last reading. So Wheel of Fortune reversed, and then the Tower. Man, they should have done something sooner. And what a disappointment. How much time were they given to rest on their laurels? And they just let other people suffer? For whatever this is, this could take a lot of different contexts. But the Tower comes in to change whatever's false, whatever needs to come down. And in this one, there's both the light and the dark, the tree of life, the tree of death. So this is a full exploration of self that brings in major change, like a bolt of lightning. Because how long can we just be suppressed by not having access to resources that exist? It's like there's more than enough to go around. They're just being mishandled. And it's so infuriating to look out at the world and see different health outcomes simply because the people at the top don't like to share. Because they need to hoard their gold for multiple lifetimes. There's no way to spend all that money. Maybe that's why they're building AI data centers. That's the only way to churn that much money. Unless you actually tax it appropriately and get it back into the flow of the economy, into the hands of the people. The people producing the money. So what's this Tower about? Because with Pluto and the Moon in Aquarius and Saturn in retrograde in Aries, that could be a big one. A big one. And Nemesis as well. It's no joke. And how do I put this? So that conjunction being complementary, the first 8 degrees of a sign, that doesn't necessarily mean good, if that makes sense. Pluto and the Moon coming together, that's like resolving really sticky and difficult obstacles that have refused to get out of the way for progress to occur. The Tower. Doesn't mean it's going to be a pretty illumination of what's going on. Talismans of Potency. Charging the sacred objects of power. That's what the Tower is about? Maintaining power? Objects of power? I mean, could be referring to money, because that's kind of the object of power. Maybe it's a reminder to charge things under this full moon. Jewelry, crystals, tarot cards, whatever needs it. Charging sacred objects of power. Tell me more about this. It's almost like getting ready. Like preparing for conflict in a way. Reading old texts like a novelist. Sentimentality, cringe, and obsession. And it's in reverse. Moving on from the past. I mean, that's the Tower for sure. Leaving. Maybe there's something about this Tower that you want to make ritualistic in leaving something behind. Could be you got a gift from somebody. If you want to bury that, literally, or if you're in an apartment, I don't know if you've got like one of those windowsill plant things, like the little boxes that you put plants in. That could be an option. Maybe you need to clear out some old messages kind of hanging on to the past. And it could even be taking something from the past and creating a talisman or an amulet from that. Just kind of depends on what your practice is. So tell me a little bit more about this Tower. Nine of Wands in reverse. Lord of Great Strength. Could be a breaking down of boundaries. Don't know exactly where that falls though. Because if you haven't been told something, could be breaking down the boundaries that were standing in between you and accessing that information. It could be breaking the obstruction to your path. You know, we've been exploring that the Aquarian energy is being suppressed, and so something about this Tower is opening the path forward. That's why Towers can be kind of intense and confusing. So they don't always feel like a blessing. We've got the High Priestess, the Priestess of the Silver Star. So maybe that's your next level. The higher self, the authentic self. If you are going through some sort of individuation process, maybe this is your moving stages between one of those. Reconnecting with a faith practice. So what about this High Priestess? And she's got that Viking hat on with the horns. So maybe that's more reference to ancestry, exploring your ancestry. There's Judgment. Spirit of the primal fire. But this one is the last judgment. So something's been going on for a while. Or the High Priestess is the last judgment. And she's not happy. Maybe you're calling judgment on how your boundaries were violated in some way. Because what if this was like a data breach or something that was hidden and it had real effects that, had you known earlier, you could have, I don't know, changed your passwords or something. Would have had the opportunity to protect yourself had they spoke up. And I feel like most data breaches are like that. It's like they happen and then we hear about them like 7 months later. Shouldn't I be informed a little bit sooner than that? Maybe? So maybe the tower's coming in because of the judgment of the priestess. And there goes that clock. And the priestess, whoever that is, might need to really put a boundary between yourself and the past. Some detachment, some of that Aquarian energy. Because wrathful compassion, that can be really challenging. You know, because you still might have attachments, like emotional attachments to anybody involved. And achieving detachment, that allows you to get to more objectivity, to look at the situation for what it is, not for who's involved. Really look at what was right, what was wrong, what was mishandled, what red flags were ignored, and let yourself be mad about it. It's very audacious for people to do things that are harmful to others and then police your reaction to it. Police your emotions around it. Your reaction is not the problem. The behavior that you're reacting to is the problem. And they can get over it. They can get over that they're being made to feel uncomfy by you being angry about how you were hurt. That's a normal reaction. If they're feeling some shame, some embarrassment, you are entitled to your emotions. They don't get to get all huffy, get all righteous about you having a reaction to being harmed. And that might be a good collective message for many a millennial, especially women, because we were trained, conditioned to be demure, be mindful, take the high road, don't cause a scene. Why not? I was harmed. That it transfers all the responsibility on me to be managing the room, essentially, the emotions of the room. They get to run amok, they get to hurt people, and then I have to make sure everybody feels okay about it? Nope. That's not my problem. And that can be a big tower moment for a lot of people, because maybe you've been operating under that more meek methodology just because social conditioning. So it might be a little shocking when the tower finally breaks you out of that and you utilize that power. Outlaw Star. It's a great misfit show. Little band of misfits. Really like that anime. That's my space cowboy anime of choice. So I think it was out around the same time as Cowboy Bebop. So just something along those lines, maybe to get your mind off of things, or even to try and help process what's going on, connect with that authentic expression. Because either, what was his name? Gene? And then in Cowboy Bebop, they did not yield to what other people thought of them. And that theme is very prevalent in both those shows. Like, I am who I am, take it or leave it. If you don't like it, that's your problem. And it can come across a little gruff, a little callous, but the other side of that coin is somebody expecting you to change for them. That doesn't make sense to me. If you don't like somebody's expression of self, it just sounds like an incompatibility. But trying to contort you into conforming to their idea of how people should be, the audacity. That's really the only thing I can say about that. So take some time for yourself. These macro themes, they tend to be pretty heavy, especially Pluto, Aquarius, and all that. Put your feet up, and anybody who tries to police your behavior around hurting you, they can shove it. And overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.